It's been said that all fiction is autobiographical, and I did indeed grow up in northern Michigan, which is rather like the fictional Northwoods in the story. Yet I didn't move here until the 3rd grade. Before that, I was living where I was born, out in the country in southern Ohio. My first exposure to music was there, and it was a group of people that got together to play hillbilly music, consisting of my great aunt and uncle, and some other guys who probably weren't related, though one never knows. You see, when I was a kid in Ohio, getting a grip on who was related to me and how they were related to me is something of a challenge. For instance, my aunt and uncle in this hillbilly band were named Angeline and Claudie. Now, Angeline was my grandmother's sister, and Claudie was my grandfather's cousin. It's not like they were blood relatives or anything like that, but still, that's fairly confusing for a kid to have your aunt and uncle both related to in different ways. Years later, when I grew up, I learned that my Aunt Angeline was originally married to Claudie's brother Roy. Apparently Roy had been out hunting raccoons and came home to find her drinking and dancing, actually, with another man. Now, I'm not going to address the issue of gun control because I know that people in the Northwoods like their guns, but I will say that it's probably not a good idea to have your hunting rifle in your hand when you come home to find your wife drinking and dancing with another man. As might be expected, he shot the guy dead and was sent to prison. A few years later, he died in the great Cincinnati prison fire. Now, since my dad is here, I should point out that these weren't his side of the family. These were the in-laws, or the outlaws, as the case may be. So then, Claudie, being the good-hearted brother and brother-in-law, came around and married her, and hence the great aunt and uncle that I came to know. When I said this story was relatively true, I meant that in part it was truly about my relatives. Later on, time permitting, we'll discuss the theory of relativity. Now, my Uncle Claudie played guitar, and my Aunt Angeline played mandolin. Her friends would come over and play steel guitar and banjo. Nowadays, they call the sort of music they play roots music. And for me, that's exactly what it is, the music that my roots are in. Although, I went through a period of time when I found such music terribly unhooked. You see, when I was a teenager, I got turned on to rock and roll. Now, this happens to a lot of teenagers, and it's the sort of affliction that can carry over into your entire life. So that's how I came to meet these guys. They each had learned to play their instruments in the spirit of rock and roll.